Good morning, periods 2 and 3. We're trying something new today. I've made a video of the lesson and I'm going to have Mrs. Johnson start and stop the recording as you work through some of the things for today. First of all, I'd like you to have a whole class discussion on a few questions. As you consider building your igloo, here are some questions that you might consider. If you were a ray of light, could you get into the igloo somehow and melt the penguin? Mrs. Johnson's going to stop the recording after each question so that you can have a group discussion. And then when you're done with the first question, we'll move on to the second question. So go ahead and stop the recording, Mrs. Johnson. Next question. Can convection currents rise and fall inside your igloo? Next question. How is the heat from the black floor in the cooker going to transfer into your igloo? Next, what are some ways to stop radiation, convection, and conduction as you build your igloo? Next, what are some design features of your own house that keep heat out in the summertime? Next, thinking about the colors that you're going to choose for your igloo, why might you choose those colors? Next question, did you do a test on that material or those colors to make sure it works like you want it to, or that how you think it will work? Finally, how does one layer of that material compare to 2 layers? And if air is such a good insulator, how can you trap more air? Now that you've had a discussion of things that might be valuable to you in building your igloo, I want you to open up your notebook and look at the 3 pages that we set up last Friday. You should have one set up like this for materials for your first design, cost on one side, and total cost circled at the bottom. You should have another page for building an igloo, which will be your storyboard number 12 when we get to it. And finally, your last page setup should be first igloo design, which will eventually go into storyboard number 13. What I would like you and your group to do is have a great big discussion about how you're going to design your first igloo, keeping in mind that you have 2 goals. You want your igloo to be efficient, so you want your igloo to have the least amount of mass lost from the time it goes into the cooker until the time that it comes out. And secondly, you want it to be cost efficient. So you want an efficient igloo that doesn't cost a lot of money. Remember, your total cost is $300. So using your materials list, I want each person in your group to take turns sharing what their ideas of a good design would be. It's very important that you all share your ideas, and then you can work on a compromise for what you will end up doing when you build your first igloo. As you're recording your materials and the cost, you want to begin thinking about your procedure. So in your notebook, you can start writing down the different steps that you're going to use to build your igloo procedure. Remember, in language arts, your teachers talked about how important it is to write the recipe step by step by step. Leave nothing out so that someone who's never built an igloo would be able to read your procedure and write one completely, follow it completely to build an igloo just like you'll be building it. And lastly, you need to design your igloo with the materials that you have chosen and the procedure that you're going to use. Draw a picture of it and identify all the different parts of your igloo inside and outside. Not only write what they are, but write underneath them or next to them why you chose that material, whether it was for support, to prevent radiation, If it deals with convection or conduction, you also need to address that underneath the materials that you have chosen. I have set up the Igloo store depot in the front of the room, so you may go up to the depot and you may look at the materials that are there available for you, but you may not touch them. I've also got one material testing station on the side of the room, and so you can ask Mrs. Johnson for permission if you need to go back to the material testing station and test something as you're thinking about ideas. I understand that as you go through this process today, you think you'll have a great design, and when you actually go to buy materials and build your first igloo, things may change. So that's why we're doing all 3 sloppy copies in your notebook, and it's okay if it changes as we go through the building process in the future lessons. But today you're just getting your preliminary ideas so that when I come back to class and see your ideas, we should be able to purchase your materials and build and have our first igloos all ready for testing. I think that's about it for now, so good luck. Make sure you use the whole period to come up with the best design possible and get as much done on this slide, and this slide in your notebook. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. Have a good day.